everyone, welcome to Coming Down. My name is Nathan. I am here with Matthew.
Hey everybody.
Hey dude, we're back.
Oh my god.
Just the two of us.
It's been way too fucking long.
It really has. And maybe we should just get some of this out of the way initially. We are back on a schedule, friends.
That's right.
We are going to be recording on Mondays, which means we will be getting weekly episodes out moving forward, barring unforeseen circumstances.
Absolutely. And we can't guarantee anything, but that is the plan. We're not trying to bank anything right now. We're just trying to fucking bang them out.
Yep, we're just trying to bang them out. So that's why we're doing it this style. We're just gonna leap in, no intro, just like whatever.
Yeah.
So we haven't we've seen each other because it has been like a wild summer. Like lots of stuff has been going on.
Holy shit, dude. And we thought it was going to be this hot vax summer, and it wasn't. It's still been really busy. We've had a lot of shit happen.
Yeah. It was freed up enough to like do stuff unlike the previous year where it was just like, oh, what have you been doing? Oh, sitting in my house.
Right. I didn't see anyone for 5 fucking months.
Yeah, no, we've actually taken some trips. Like I went back to Colorado and got to see some friends and family.
Hell yeah.
I went out there for I was gone for 2 weeks, and so I was out, and we drove, so I was out there for 10 days. But yeah, it was really fucking cool to see everyone out there, and any of my Colorado peeps listening, seriously, it was fucking good to see you.
Oh yeah, you guys had some gorgeous photographs from that trip.
Yeah, man, it was a fun trip. It was interesting, and we drove because we didn't want to fly. And one of the things too that we had brought up, we were like, well, I mean, COVID paranoia aside, and with flying, I was just like, we also haven't had a cold in a couple of years because of everything.
Right.
So, I just didn't want to get on a plane and then, get a cold when we got to Colorado because that would fucking suck. And then we're just sick out there with, a regular sickness.
Oh, forget about it, yeah.
Yeah. So we decided to drive, and it was cool. I have one anecdote to tell before we get to the main story or the rest of this, but
how dare you?
I know. we stayed in Twin Falls both times.
Fucking Twin Falls, Idaho?
Yeah, man, Twin Falls, Idaho.
I don't know if it's still there, but one of the best Greek restaurants I've ever eaten at was there, and it's just these 2 fucking weird ass Greek brothers. Anyway,
man,
Twin Falls is cool.
So I feel like I even saw that place when I was looking around because Twin Falls is
called
big.
The White House.
Is it called the White House?
Yeah.
Whoa, okay, I did not see that.
Or I'm sorry, might be the White House, but it's got white in the title.
Okay,
so it's Greek. Anyway,
right on.
I want to say it's the White House.
Okay,
so it was literally just a house that was painted white.
Oh, interesting.
That they built into a restaurant.
So yeah, that town was wild because as far as I could tell, there wasn't anything other than this main drag that had every single thing on it, and then as soon as you went off that main drag, it was just farms.
Oh yeah.
And it was just one big street that had every single thing, all the box stores, all the shopping, all the restaurants, everything, and then beyond that, there wasn't anything to that town.
It's your classic Wild West town, dude.
Yeah. It was cool though. We had a good time there. On our way back, we stopped, and then we got there early, so we had time to go out and eat. And yeah, we went to a nice restaurant. It was weird, but yeah, it was fun. But the story that I have, which is so funny. So the night the first night that we stayed there, we got in pretty late, 9 or 10, and we're checking in, and our key card isn't working. And I thought I demagnetized it with my phone, but I didn't. Turns out just that room key card just wasn't working at all. So I'm walking back and forth from the front office to the room trying to get a key card to work. None of them are working. And in this whole time, we've got all our shit piled up next to this room because we had already hauled it all out of the car. Anyway, in this whole time,
pain in the ass, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm walking back to the front office, and kind of around the corner, I couldn't actually see the room, but I just overhear this conversation of someone being well, we smelled weed in this room, and we know you were smoking weed in this room, so
what?
The cops are gonna be here, and you better just da 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 da, and I didn't catch the end of it.
Oh my god.
And then as I'm walking up to the front office, 2 cops pulled up at the Motel 6 in Twin Falls, so whatever. if you didn't see a cop at a Motel 6, I don't know what Motel 6 you're staying at. But like maybe
it doesn't exist.
Maybe the one, if there's a Motel 6 in like Northampton, then that one maybe doesn't have a cop show up every night. Anyway, so I'm sort of like laughing. I'm like, are they fucking like worried about weed right now? And then these two cops pull up. I go get my new key card. That one doesn't work. And so then as I'm walking back, the two cops are marching up the stairs to said room, and I still hear some more conversation. And then I go back, get the key, or they change our room, and then give me new key cards, and then we're just around the corner. So I come walking back up, we slough all our shit into the room, we come out to go get food, and the cops are up there, and I hear the cops, like, talking to this person of, like, oh yeah, like, they said you were smoking weed in here, we're gonna have to come in here and search the room, and if you don't want to, if you just tell us you were smoking weed, and like, you know, the whole cop banter about weed.
Holy shit, is it the 90s again?
Well, and like, so it cracked me up because I completely fucking forgot that I wasn't in Oregon, and that I wasn't in a weed legal state, and that there are still many of those. The majority of the states in this country are not weed legal. And so I just turned to Ricky and I was like, imagine giving a fuck about weed. And I said it very loudly, hoping one of those cops fucking heard me. Because I was just like, holy shit, man, they're making a big deal about some weed in a motel.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're not supposed to smoke in those rooms, but like, who even cares, dude?
Oh my god, no shit.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Yeah. Oh, we smoked weed, so the cops are coming. You better fucking grab your ankles. Like,
yeah, so that was a little bit
dude.
That was a little bit of a crack 'em up moment where I was like, oh shit, man. I'm like, sorry to the poor souls who live in fucking not weed legal states.
Right?
Like, still, like, wow.
Well, and fuck, honestly, I mean, like, I don't want to get too fucking political, but like, they've only recently started reversing sentences for marijuana here in Oregon, so
right, which like absolutely needs to happen, so like at a faster clip.
Oh my god, seriously, like we got legalized how long ago? Like let's get these fucking guys out of jail. Jesus,
yeah, motherfuckers are sitting in jail being like, cool, I was busted for a thing that's legal.
Yeah,
like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever.
Yeah, still there. Like,
so shitty.
Fuck that.
Yep, so shitty. Biden, legalize weed federally. Just do it, man. Just do it.
It's fucking time.
It's the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah, I mean, like, you want some fucking tax money? You got some fucking tax money, dog. Yeah. Like, get it.
Anyway, so you did some traveling too.
I did. It wasn't as far and wide as you went, but a very good friend and patron of the show, Kat.
Hell yeah, dude! Shout out Kat.
Hell yeah, love you. She came up to Portland, and we took a little trip out to Zigzag. We took a little trip out to Rhododendron.
Oh, nice.
On the Zigzag River.
Oh yeah, cool.
Super cute campground. Not going to tell anybody what it's called because, like,
no, you gotta save that shit.
Oh, you're right. Honestly, anybody who wants to
tweet at us.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's not too hard to figure out where we were camped if you do the Zigzag River and Rhododendron. But anyway, it was gorgeous. It was absolutely, like, it was fucking Fern Gully, dude. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, you've seen the photos, right? Like, yeah. Like, there's this tiny little bridge leading over this fucking stream, and you look over to the right, and it's just like literally a gully full of ferns with fir trees growing up on either side. It's just like, oh my god, it was magical.
Man, Oregon's full of that shit. You just like go places and you're like, wow, we are in the rainforest because just there's so much foliage and it's all so green and like lush and it just feels like you could scamper around in it naked all day.
That's all I wanted to do,
because it doesn't even look like it's gonna hurt you at all. It's just like mosses,
right?
And soft stuff, ferns, and just like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I was expecting the Kodama from Princess Mononoke to like poke their heads out,
right?
You know?
Yes.
So gorgeous.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to remember to pass on some photos for show notes on this, but like,
ooh, yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Hell yeah, it was just beautiful, and so like, I bought a hammock and like, read some books in the sunshine and like,
beautiful.
Ate a lot of good food and. Unfortunately, our plan was to stay out there for 3 days, but after we went on this gorgeous hike in the morning and like I completely submerged myself in what was literally snow melt because it was so fucking hot out. I think it was like 100 degrees in Rhododendron that day, and it was like 106 in Portland. So
this was like our second round of heat wave.
Yeah, it was the second round heat wave, exactly. And then about midday, I'm just laying on a flat rock reading a book and kind of having the time of my life, even though that sounds like the most boring shit ever. But
I think to many people that is the time of your life. Yeah.
I'm just like fucking feeling it, just like, oh, this is it. And then I look up through these majestic trees that are covered in these beards of moss, and the beautiful god rays of sunlight that are arcing down between them are obscured in this haze. And I'm like, oh shit, I think I recognize this. That forest fire pollution that's gonna fucking kill us if we don't get the fuck out of here.
Oh man.
And so I compare notes with Kat, and she's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that like we should get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And, I was like, all right, well let's just slow roll it. We'll pack up the tent. We'll get all of our gear in the car that we don't absolutely need for what we're doing right now. And then if it looks like it's clearing up, like we can reverse course and we'll lay it all out for what we need to do tonight,
Hell yeah.
And I mean, like, it got so much worse during the time that we were packing up that it was like, okay, we probably should have, like...
Yeah.
And then once we got out on the road, it was like, oh shit, no, this looks really bad. But we were still outside of cell phone range, so we're just hauling ass back to Portland, and we finally get into cell phone range, and it's like, well, let's just see what the AQI is out there, and it's like, oh my fucking god,
oh no,
like we are definitely, this is like 175 or something.
Wow,
like,
so you got out like at a good time.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't have been hanging out as long as we
probably
did.
Should have got a little earlier.
But it's a damn good thing that we didn't hang out longer, and the next day it was like 475 up there.
Yikes.
So like,
wow.
Yeah, it would have been toxic if we had stayed overnight.
Yeah.
And it was definitely unhealthy while we were there.
Wow.
So.
Oof. Well, sorry that your vacay got cut short a little bit.
Hey man, like, I'm trying to highlight the good times that we had, because we both were like, you know what, like, it's fucking rad that we got to get out in the woods and see some cool shit while we had a chance. And like,
dude, and highlight to like just leave, man. If you feel like shit is not going well, or that like things could become potentially dangerous, just go, man.
Exactly, especially in forest fire season when shit's all weird. Like, don't hang out, even if you've got like another day on your permit. Like, just bug out,
Yeah.
Even if like you get back into town and you get into cell phone range and it's like, oh well, it seems like things are going to be better tonight. You've still got that spot reserved, you can still head out there and like do whatever you need to do, but like be safe.
Hell yeah. Dude, well, that still sounds so fun. I really need to take a nature trip soon, and because we drove through a ton of it to get to Colorado, and all these spots, and I was like, man, what if I just peeled off on this dirt road and went and just camped for the night?
Right.
It seemed like a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
But we had an itinerary.
we actually we had this conversation while we were out there. I was like, we both come from this Catholic background, and we both understand the religious experience, and it's like I've always kind of wanted to like figure out a way to like give atheists like this kind of deep I don't want to say religious experience because that implies religion, but like something that just kind of moves you on a fundamental level.
Yeah.
In a non-religious way. And I haven't found anything in my life apart from being in the deep woods, or at the very least the liminal woods, like being close to nature, like
Sure. I mean, there is something just absolutely insane, and I mean, just like, something awakens in you when you're not near like anyone else, and you're just deep into natural surroundings. Like, there is really something that happens in your brain that like you start connecting certain different dots. I mean, yeah, city living's, you know, you're kind of always working, right?
Yep.
Like your brain, you're just at work all the time because you got to navigate like this. When you're out there, I don't know, man. Like,
I'm just saying, when you're crouching ankle deep in a stream and like the sunlight's coming through pine needles and leaves onto your eyes, and like there's a fucking 100-foot tall tree that's tipped over and exposed all of the fucking roots that it grew up on, and like that ancient dirt is like up there and you can smell it. Like there's something that's happening in your hindbrain that I can't explain, but it's fundamental and it's nice.
It turns your ass into a poet because you were describing the beards of moss, and I mean we're starting a band called Beards of Moss. Like tomorrow. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. It will be a druidic
yep.
druidic metal,
Yeah. I mean, that sounds about right. Well, shit, yeah, man. Well, so yeah, we've had some good times. There's probably some more anecdotes and stories that'll come up from this last year, so apologies to the folks at home that we haven't like been around, but it's just like getting back into the swing of regular life and just pretending like we're just going to do the same things we did 2 years ago. It's just, I don't know, it's different. We are going to keep doing this.
Absolutely.
So, but I don't know, I'm a very different person than I was when we left off.
It's been a mixed bag, right? Like we've been trying to do some of the things that we always did. Like we went to the Primus show and that was cool, but then like right after that the fucking Delta wave spiked, and it's like, well, I'm really glad I didn't get sick going to that fucking show.
Yeah, it was an outdoor show, so that was cool.
Absolutely. But like it's just there's a lot of stuff to navigate right now, and like it's we really thought that the beginning of the summer was the signal to go back to normality. And it's like, we don't actually know what normal is anymore.
But the thing is, yeah, even if say, like, the virus effectively went away, like, the landscape of the world is so different. I mean, You've made career moves. You're not in that same job anymore. And I'm about to make career moves because I can't work this job anymore.
Yeah, man.
Like, things are really changing for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, we're all just becoming different people. So that's why it's been hard to get back on a schedule.
100%. And I mean, that's not even including the weird fucking world infrastructure problems with supply chain and fucking yada yada.
Dude, I mean, literally, right? Yeah. And, yeah, just, like, the fact that people aren't, like, places just aren't employed by people anymore. Like,
fucking hell.
I don't know if you've like gone shopping at all. I mean, outside of even just grocery shopping, but like, I wandered into a Target recently, and I mean, every other shelf just didn't have anything on it.
Yeah.
There's just like flats of boxes sitting around because they don't have the people to stock shit anymore. It's like interesting.
It's fascinating, honestly. Like, we're experiencing a huge cultural shift that we're not going to see the effects of.
And, like, I think it's great. Like, so we couldn't find half the things we were looking for, but it's okay because I know how to roll with the punches and just, like, find the shit that's gonna work for me.
Absolutely.
The people who are, like, melting down about this shit is so wild. Like, whoa, what a fucking life you've led where if a shelf isn't stocked or if a product isn't there or things are different than how you wanted them to be, like, you're gonna fucking freak out about it.
No kidding, man. Like, I mean, that's, I'm not trying to like harp too hard, but like that's kind of the story of a lot of people's lives. Like, you can't get what you need, so you fucking make it work, like,
right. Yeah, totally.
Fuck.
Yeah, there's a whole like generation of people who just are not cut out for like I won't even call it scrapping, dude. It's like, they didn't have your noodles on sale. What are you gonna do?
Wait a minute. This coupon that I had is supposed to be good for this meat.
They don't have your brand of toilet paper. Fuck.
Fucking hell.
Well, anyway, no, I wanted to do a little bit of catch up, and I think I think we're good on that.
We've sufficiently caught up.
I think we've sufficiently caught the listeners up a little bit, but I have a story because it is Halloween month.
Oh my god.
It is.
Are we going to do our second semi-annual spook-tacular?
We're doing a spook-tacular because I have a creepy story that I haven't told on this podcast yet.
Was that a ghost? And a cat?
Yep.
A black one.
It was a black cat. Yep. And a ghost. So, okay, quick housekeeping stuff. As always, hit us up on Twitter at comingdownpod. Email us comingdownpod@gmail.com. We are going to restart the Patreon in December.
We are.
Because
December 1st.
Yeah, December 1st. That is going to happen because, we have figured out we're back on a schedule. We're back weekly. You can expect an episode next week.
That's right.
Almost assuredly.
Almost assuredly.
Yeah. With utmost, very real confidence.
We're going to try so hard, you guys.
Yeah. And so, but until we start the Patreon up, we're still doing the donation stuff. So if you want to donate to ACLU or BLM, please do, and we'll send you shirts, stickers, coasters, buttons, whatever you want, and we'll also match the donation. So we'll still do that. We'll run that until December 1st. Then we're gonna kick then we're gonna wet our beak again. Like we're gonna kick the Patreon back on so we can pay for our hosting.
Exactly.
And that's literally like what we're trying to do.
And huge shout out to everyone who has given us money up until now. Like,
yep.
You're absolutely why we've been keeping the lights on.
Yep, the handful of you folks who have done that, like, super fucking love you for it. So this is my creepy story. This is also like a heartfelt story and like kind of a series of anecdotes because, I'll get into it, but the creepy story comes at the end. So I would have been 13 at the time of this story.
Okay.
So I would have been in like 8th grade, I think. Yeah, 7th or 8th grade.
Living in Fort Collins.
And, life was pretty good. It was kind of actually the worst because, like, junior high was literally the worst 3 years of my life. But
now, remind me, are you still split custody here, or?
Yes, okay. I am going to see my dad like every other weekend and hanging out, and he's at this point, I think, stopped trying to get me to go to church, or I've already decided I'm not going to church, or we've had that whole fight.
Hallelujah, either way.
Yeah, and that's a whole other story. Still got to talk about dads on this show sometime. Yeah. But, so this interesting thing happens. So, like, life is fine. I've got some friends. I don't know. Like, life is fine. It's junior high, so it's like puberty. It's kind of the worst years of your life.
It's literally the worst.
I'm really trying to figure out who I am, like, or who I'm becoming, like, after elementary, because it's just so awkward. It's just, everything's so awkward.
Well, everyone's an asshole in middle school.
Right, everyone's an asshole, except for your, like, handful of friends.
And even then, and you sometimes you're the asshole because your hormones are fucking running.
Oh yeah,
wild.
for sure. Yeah,
and your body's doing crazy ass shit. Like,
yeah, and so this really cool thing happened. So my mom, we had like a 2-story house. So we had this newer house. The basement was unfinished, and we were planning on finishing it. And my mom let this woman move in named Katie. She would have been, I think, 26 or 7 around this time. Okay. None of us knew her. So it was through a friend of a friend that my mom let this woman move in. And she was from Kansas City. She was a heroin addict in Kansas City and was, like, living on the street, basically, and, like, pretty hardcore addict.
Fuck.
And she got clean, went to rehab, and but rehab centers have these strict rules around like you have to stay clean the whole time,
right? And
it depends on the rehab center, but some of them do. And this was one that
especially back then, yeah.
This is one you paid for too, so it was like one of the nicer ones, not one of the like state-run ones. It was like she went there, like her family was paying for her, but they did still have the rules around staying sober. And she had been 2 or 3 months sober off of heroin, gotten off the street. She was doing really well, and then she they did like, you know, and she got the freedom to like leave the campus, and she went out, had a beer, came back, they breathalyzed her, and then they kicked her out because she drank.
Oh, whoa, okay.
Yep.
No, I mean, I'm sure... Anyway, sorry, that derailed me a little bit, because I was like, that had nothing to do with heroin, but then I'm like, oh yeah, that's how rehab centers work.
That's how they work.
Yeah.
You got to stay sober from everything the whole time. And, you know, and at least that's the story she told her friend, which got back to my mom. So who knows? I don't actually know. And as this story bears out, you'll find out.
Got it.
So, but through a friend of a friend. So she like knew a woman who knew my mom, and this person came to my mom and was like, hey, you know, like my friend Katie like just got kicked out of rehab, and if she doesn't like get the fuck out of Kansas City, like she's just gonna relapse and end up back on the streets. So like, can we move her out here? I don't have room for her. Like, would you just let her stay with you? I don't know how it all came to bear, and I'll have to even ask my mom about this a little bit, but...
Do you remember how well your mom knew this person and what their relationship was?
I don't even remember who the person was who was, like, the middle person between Katie and my mom.
Okay.
But it must have been good enough that my mom was like...
Well, yeah, I mean...
You know what?
Your mom's solid, so...
And my mom is solid, and she was even married to Susan at the time, and Susan was not cool. Susan was not cool. So I'm even surprised any of this came to bear. But it did. And they were like, you know what? This person, Katie, can come and live with us while she gets on her feet. And if it means her getting the fuck out of her hometown, because that was the idea, too. It's like, move to a small town. Like, go to Fort Collins. Yeah, there's probably heroin around, but it's going to be hard to find, dude. Like, you can't just... There's not the street you can just go walk down and be like, who's got the fucking...
I mean, yeah.
Who's got the whack and shit. Like, you
but
can
also
find...
Fort Collins is a fucking college town, so
it is, but heroin wasn't really a thing.
Well, back then, yeah. I mean...
And, like, I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, so this is, like, 1995.
Yeah, I mean, like... The heroin epidemic wasn't a thing back then, so like...
No, and it was in bigger cities, but Fort Collins,
Portland had plenty of heroin in the 90s. Like, that is absolutely true, but like...
Yeah.
It wasn't huge in Bend.
Yeah, the idea was like, move to somewhere where you don't know anyone, and it's a smaller town, so like, and just go and fucking get on your feet out there, you know? And so my mom was willing to let that happen, and so yeah, they built her a little room down there in our unfinished basement, like put up a bed and whatnot. And it was super weird, because yeah, she was like, hey, this woman that you don't know that I don't know is gonna come live with us. And I was just like, all right, whatever. You know, I guess that's what's happening. Like, I already don't like Susan, so how worse could it get? Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. The classic story of, like, the kid hating, like, their stepdad. Well, I got that with a stepmom. But I had a mom and a stepmom, and then hated the stepmom. Anyway.
Well, in your defense, it sounds like she was kind of a piece of shit, so...
She wasn't great. And whatever. She was doing her best, but she wasn't great. So, yeah. I don't think I'll ever do a whole pod on how much I don't like Susan. But,
no, and I mean, you don't have to, but... Like,
I'll do a whole pod on why I don't like my dad. But,
and you definitely have to.
But not my stepmom. Anywho, so... And Susan's not in the picture anymore, so shout out to Mom. Yeah. Well, you're doing great.
Yeah. Exactly. Mom's doing fucking killer.
Yeah. So anyway, so this woman comes to live with us, Katie, and she's definitely different. She's like a city person, you know. She like kind of dressed like a... Like, I don't know, man, like a city person, like big baggy flannels and like big baggy pants and yeah, dude, I don't know. I don't know how to like put it.
Baggy
like,
pants and flannels.
Yeah, dude, but I hadn't seen that shit. She dressed like I don't know, it was the 90s, man. She dressed like a fucking alternative like kid, like Kurt Cobain and shit. She was cool. And she was of the age. She was like, yeah, mid-20s, like 25, 26, 27, somewhere in there.
She sounds awesome.
She fucking was awesome. So this is the series of anecdotes of the shit we got into, and she was really cool. So like we kind of hit it off right away, and I think she really liked me because I was a 13-year-old kid. I hadn't done any drugs at this point. Like I was about to smoke weed. Like I was ready to. I knew I wanted to. You had
the lighter in your hand.
Yeah,
you were ready to go.
I knew I wanted to smoke weed, but I hadn't yet. I knew I wanted to like have sex, which is way too early, but I hadn't yet. And like,
oh, homie, like most of the kids that I know had sex around 13 or younger. I mean, I was a late bloomer.
Yeah, but, I lost my virginity at 14, so yeah, it wasn't far after this, but fair. Yeah, so I think she knew that in me, but I was cool because I was like getting into cool music. Like I was right on the cusp of being like that, but she knew that if she hung around me, I wasn't going to expose her to like the shit she was trying to get away from. So I think she was just like, you know what, this kid's cool. I'm going to spend my time hanging around him and like show him some of the darkness. And so she got me into all this cool shit, man. So I mean, a lot of the music that I listen to is formative from her. Like I was into like the stuff that was on the radio around then, so I was getting into like Beck and Nine Inch Nails and stuff, but she was like, oh dude, fucking Jane's Addiction and
like, hell yes,
you know, some of the earlier 90s stuff that I just barely sort of missed.
Well, like the independent stuff that like didn't make it into the alternative movement. Mm-hmm. Like that's something that a lot of people, I don't even know what I'm talking about, but like me in particular, like almost missed out on.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for the kids who are like, you know, 5 or 10 years older to like be like, hey,
right,
check this shit out, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like, my love for Jane's Addiction today, like, comes from my time with her, because that was her favorite band, and it was, you know, super cathartic for her, because, like, they were also heroin addicts and sang about addiction a lot, and,
yeah,
you know, and they were, like, really heavy and weighty about it, so she was just, like, super into that, and she, you know, and she was kind of a heavy, weighty person. She really liked poetry and was very into, like, cerebral concepts and like fucking heady shit, but also just had these addiction problems. And so we hung out a lot, actually, kind of just when I had nothing to do and she was around the house. She was just like, dude, you want to go to the park? And she had a car too, so I'm 13 and suddenly I've got like a friend in their 20s who has a car, and she's just like, dude. And my mom was like fine with it. Like we were, you know, we bonded, we were friends, and my mom was kind of like, all right, man, like, I guess you guys be friends.
Well, the thing is, like, you know, if your fucking 13-year-old kid's hanging out with a 19-year-old, that's fucking trouble, right?
Right.
But, like, 26?
But also, like, a person who's made of trouble. Like, and you know this already, right? Because she got kicked out of a rehab center, and that's why she's there.
Okay. I mean, like, maybe that's foreshadowing, but I'm just saying, like...
Yeah.
You know, like... I can get why your mom, after having like hung out with this lady, might have been like, well, you seem cool, maybe you made some mistakes, but you're probably okay to fucking take care of my kid.
And,
you know?
And she did a really good job for a good while she lived with us. And, you know, I guess like, I think she only lived with us for maybe like 6 to 9 months.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that like, people are children until they're 25, and then after that I feel like you can mostly trust them if they seem like they're not idiots, you know?
Yeah, like, for sure. No, I get that, and so like, and maybe even, I don't know, my mom was also like finishing school. Like there was just a lot going on in the house, and I was a little bit of a latchkey kid, so it was like maybe my mom was just like, whatever, dude.
She's like, free nanny, fuck it, go for it. You
free
know,
nanny, like, and like I guess he can just take off with her in her car, and like I hope everything's gonna be fine. And it did. It always was fine.
Honestly, like the alternative is like, I don't fucking trust you around my son, even though you're living in my house.
Which she would have never let her move in the first place if that was such a huge concern.
Exactly.
Right?
So I mean, like,
so everything worked out the way
it
it should have, at least for me, at least for us. But yeah. And it was cool, man. And so if I was around and she was around, we had nothing to do. It was like, dude, you want to go to the park? And she'd just like take me out, or be like, do you want to just go drive around? You want to just go do anything?
Yeah.
And I was just like,
let's drive around and listen to fucking music. Like, that's totally what you do when you're a fucking teenager.
And I'd get her to like tell me all like her stories of like living in fucking Kansas City, and obviously she would like dumb them down, but she was like, oh yeah, man, like living on the street was crazy, and would kind of like talk to me and like work out some of her issues with me, because I also had like this fresh mind, because she could be like, oh dude, addiction's crazy, heroin's crazy, like don't ever do it, and I'd be like, well, why? And then she got to sort of like talk it out with me, and I'd be like, well, I don't get that, man, like you could do better, and like you've got a life ahead of you, and like, so I think it was this very great,
that's really sweet.
It really was.
Honestly.
It was super sweet. It was this great relationship, because she informed so much about the life I was ready to get into. Like I said, I knew I wanted to smoke weed. I knew I wanted to like start going down some of these paths, just based on the music I listened to, the things that I was into, being an artist and stuff. And I was like, well, I know I'm going to go do these things.
Yeah.
And so I had this sort of early like guru to be like, well, I've done these things and it ended up shitty for me, so like don't do these things. And I mean, to this day, like, fucking heroin and like needle drugs have been, for the listener at home, that was a fist bump over the mic, but yeah, like those things, avoiding those things was very informed by my friendship with Katie.
Well, and just to be clear, like you've never done those things, like, and because of Katie. Like,
oh fuck no,
that's
man.
why I was preemptively fist bumping you.
Yeah. No, I never have, and I never will. Because like I know what the line is of, like, this shit's too hard, right? Like, don't do this.
I mean, we don't have to belabor the point that like I've had some terribly disappointing times with those drugs. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I smoked some opium that was probably just actually heroin, so like that happened, but I've never shot anything, and like that, there's a world of difference between those things.
Well, so. let's clear that up too. I've never injected drugs either, but like,
hell yeah,
I've definitely tried to figure out what the big deal was with opiates, and either my brain chemistry is not set up for it, or there just is nothing there. But like,
well, and I've tried to figure out what it is about most drugs, and most of them don't interest me that much, outside of like nicotine and alcohol, I guess. But when you shoot a drug, it really changes that.
I mean, you smoke weed too, but like,
oh god, so little though.
I mean, I watched you smoke it tonight, so like,
yeah, dude, my one hit for the evening, dude.
I'm just saying, like, don't try to knock that shit.
Yeah. I just mean on like an addictive level.
Oh,
like I'm not addicted to weed. I am addicted to nicotine for damn sure, and then alcohol to some degree.
Okay.
I guess I was just trying to like...
I'm sorry, I missed your point there. You're right.
Yeah, I was trying to, say it. Anyway.
I forgot we were talking about addictions here. Like, I'm not addicted to alcohol. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So she... Yeah, so we had this really good relationship, and here's a couple fun things we did. She took me to see R-rated movies because she was older than me,
right? Because like PG-13 was absolutely
was absolutely a thing, and I was very much a 13-year-old who looked it. So like I wasn't gonna get into see Tank Girl on my own.
Here's the thing: if you'd walked into my theater.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have given two shits. We would have torn a ticket in half and sold you half of it, and sold the other half to some other fucking dude.
Yo, I mean, faux show. That's the move, dude. The double selling the tickets.
Oh yeah, and then refilling soda for fucking money that's not going in the till. Like, yeah. We had the fucking movie theater scams, dude.
I guess I lived in a world where people super cared about that because, so going to Tank Girl wasn't a problem. She just walked up, bought us tickets to Tank Girl, and we went and saw that, and that fucking ruled. That was like my first R-rated movie in a theater, and I was just like so fucking thrilled.
Hell yeah.
And then we went and saw 12 Monkeys.
How old were you when you saw 12 Monkeys?
So 13.
God fucking damn.
Because apparently Tank Girl and 12 Monkeys came out in the same year.
Yeah, that tracks, yeah.
And so we went to a different theater and we saw 12 Monkeys. But the woman at the desk was not having it. Because the rule was parent or guardian, but really it was parent back then, had to bring you in to see an R-rated movie.
Anyone who would fucking crack the whip on that.
Oh, and so
Jesus Christ.
And so she was like, because Katie went up to buy the tickets, and she was like, it has to be a parent. And Katie was like, are you saying that this isn't my child? She's only like 10 years older than me. And Katie looks young, too. She looked 19 or 20, even though she was like 26 or 7 or whatever. And this woman was just like, yeah, like, I'm not going to sell you these tickets. And Katie was like, I had him when I was 13. Do you want to talk to me about how that happened? And, like, got all in her face. And the woman, like, backed down super hard and sold us the tickets. And I was just sitting there like, oh, shit, dude.
Okay. Like, I feel like there's a chance that this like whole thing ends weird, but like if you still know Katie, I want to fucking shake her hand. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, she ruled. But yeah, and so we spent a lot of time just doing that stuff. And really, like, before I get to the spooky story, I will just tell the whole way it ended, which is she couldn't really get away from addiction at all, and though she never found a heroin dealer out there, she just started drinking a lot and never really like found like a good job or like any sort of solidity there. She was bored as fuck, and just couldn't really shake her old ways, and so she started drinking just an absolute shit ton, to the point that I stopped being allowed to go cruise around with her because my mom caught her driving drunk multiple times and was like, yep, you can't drive my kid around anymore because you're just drunk all the time. And she would have like a flask in her pocket at all times, like that level.
That sucks.
And it ultimately ended with my mom booting her out, and it was kind of a throwdown, and me and her stayed in touch a little bit, but it was before the internet. Like, we didn't have cell phones. I think I sent her a letter or two, and then last I heard, she went back to Kansas City, and I have never heard from her since. Fuck. And I've done some internet searches to even just find anything, even obituaries, just because I'm curious. And like, she's never hopped on social media as far as I can tell, because I know her full name and everything, and I've got some cool fucking keepsakes from her, some poetry and some drawings that she did for me, and I'll always have the memories of her turning me on to Jane's Addiction and like getting me into movies and all this good stuff. So it's a happy story at the end of the day, I'll tell you what.
And like, we may or may not cut what you just said, because it's a huge fucking bummer.
It is, and maybe we will cut it. But it's the end of the story, is what it is. That's how it turned out, dude.
It's the end of the story, but you haven't actually told us the story yet.
So here's the Halloween fucking part. And I've wanted to tell the story about her for a long time, just because... She fucking ruled, dude. I have no idea where she is, and I hope she's fucking out there fucking killing it, dude. And like writing poetry and fucking doing good shit, dude.
She probably is.
Yep. And I like to believe that too.
Yeah.
But there was this one night that she came back to the house, and she was like, dude, do you want to go on a drive with me? And I was like, obviously I was like, yes, of course. And she was like, I gotta show you some shit, dude. And I was like, okay, because this wasn't our usual thing. It was like, oh, let's just go to the park or whatever. She's like, no, I found some shit today, like, you gotta come see this. It's like, okay, nothing exciting ever happens in this town, so like, I'm fucking ready. And so we fucking take off, and for the Colorado listeners, we go down Overland. So it's this road that's kind of like right butted up against the foothills of Colorado, and then it veers off into just like tons of S-curves and like backwoods fucking roads, and then eventually that meets up with, wait for it, the Pooter Canyon.
I fucking knew this was coming. Did you see my eyes widen? I was just like, we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're about to dive right into the Pooter Canyon.
We're about to go up the Pooter Canyon. Except we didn't. We only got right outside the Pooter Canyon.
So, like, there's been a few NPR stories recently about Colorado, and I'm just like, wait a minute. They're talking about Fort Collins right now. And sure enough, we're in the fucking Pooter Canyon. Like,
yes!
I'm just like, God damn it, I knew it.
Dude, I was trying to explain how people out here think that that's funny to, like, my mom and, like, Lara and stuff. And they're like, what? I don't get it. And I was like,
what?
Yeah, because I didn't get it either until I first said it on this podcast, and you just, like, laughed. You were like, say that again? I was like, oh, the Pooter Canyon? Wait, the what? The Pooter Canyon. Did you say you went up the Pooter Canyon? Yeah. And, like, I didn't get it either because I lived with it. Because, for the listener at home, if you haven't found this out by now, it's spelled Poudre.
Yeah,
Pooter.
It's French for powder.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. So anyway, we're on Overland, and we're winding through all these kind of backwoods, and it's like country homes and stuff. There's like these homes with like lots of land and then space between them. And so we pull over, and across the way is this old like brick home. And it's like short. It's like a 1-story ranch brick home. And there are these places out there, like, because they're old like settler homes that just sort of stuck around forever. And and not like settler, but like, you know, the fucking post-Civil War like West Coast push settler stuff, right? The West Coast pioneers, I guess. Whatever.
It's not pioneers, but yeah, I know what
you know what I'm saying. Yeah, not pioneers, but yeah. And so there are just these places around, and I'm like, holy shit, dude, how have I never seen, like, this house before? But it's weird. And it's actually kind of, like, built into a hill. So you can actually, like, walk up this hill, and then you're almost on the roof of this house. So it's sort of like a sunken-in ranch. And this is right off of, like, a weird, squirrely, like, mountain road. And then next to it is, like, a giant barn. Like a giant wooden barn. And so we pull off where we can, like, because again it's like a squirrely road, so we're like even a few blocks up, and she was like, all right dude, we gotta fucking be really quiet and we gotta check this out, but like come look at this. And so we like walk up to this house, and it's like totally blacked out. There's no fucking lights on in this house at all. But as we're walking out, there is an extension cord from this house going all the way to the barn.
Oh.
And the barn is fully lit up. And this is at night. This is at like 10, 11 at night.
I'm pretty sure I know where this is going.
Well, I don't know if you... It's not a Texas Chainsaw sequel, but...
Oh, homie.
But we're just
that's
like...
not what I was suggesting.
No, and she was like, why... What is going on in this barn? Like, why is it all lit up at night?
Well, what did the air smell like?
Nothing.
Well, all right, keep going.
Okay. So I'm already freaked out, man, because she's got me fucking freaked out. She's like, yeah, there's no lights on in this house. There's a cord going from this house over here. Fucking, but the barn's lit up. It's late at night. Like, what the fuck? There's not animals in there because they should be trying to sleep at night, right? And I was like, yeah, okay, like, that's what a barn's for. Okay. And then she was like, check this out. And so we kind of like walk up that hill and walk around the back side of this house, right? And again, it's like kind of butted up against this hill, and so we're effectively looking at like the back gutter of this house, but it's almost like chest level with us. And then there's just like these planks of wood set out, and then there's just like bones, saucers, fucking herbs, just like all these fucking, and like sticks in like certain formations, and just like all these things set out. But in one of the saucers was just this deep red powder. And she was like, dude, I think this is dried blood. and she like convinced me that it was dried blood, but it was also just like all of this shit just like splayed out in this very meticulous manner, and it was very occulty and very fucking weird, dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm, like, the way that you described it sounds like it was some kind of occult shit, for sure.
Or maybe some perfectly harmless like Wiccan shit or whatever.
A cult covers Wiccan.
yeah, you're right. And that's like kind of just the story. Like nothing happened, but she like brought me up to this place to like show me this stuff and was like, what the fuck do you think is going on here? And I was like, I don't know. How did you find yourself out here? And she was like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't know. Like, I think she was just out roaming around drunk or like, whatever. But Jesus. Like, yeah, dude. And then I was just like, but oh my God, we got to get the fuck out of here. And she was like, yeah, we should get the fuck out of here. And so we just like ran off this property and fucking hopped in her car and left. So that's my little spook-tacular story of just like finding some occult shit that a strange friend of mine brought me to.
I have a little thing I can add on if you
please do. Perfect.
Okay, so me and my buddy Chris, we go out into it was this forest area outside of Prineville, Oregon, with his dad. I cannot for the life of me remember what the fuck his dad was doing out there. It was some type... I don't think we were just camping. I think he was like... Fuck. I don't think he was hunting. I don't remember if he was fishing. Who cares? Chris's dad, Glenn, who fucking... Props to Glenn. Good dude. Drove us out there. And we were just like, we're going to climb this fucking rock formation because we were right next to this rock formation called Castle Rock. And unlike most things that are named like that, it's fucking enormous. Like, it's hundreds of feet tall. Like, it's huge. It's just this big fucking basalt mesa that's out in the middle of the high desert, and there's not a whole lot of features like it nearby. And it's like there's a really sheer cliff face on it on one side, but like there's hella gradual slopes up on other sides of it. So it's not like it's a crazy feat to get to the top.
Right, like you can get up there, but like some paths would be much harder than others.
Exactly. And we chose a path that I want to say was the most gradual, but it's been a long time. I honestly don't remember. But we eventually got up onto the top of this fucking massive promontory, and we're just fucking cruising around, doing whatever the fuck, and we hear gunshots.
Oh.
And like I said, I'm pretty sure Glenn wasn't out there hunting. Like, I don't even know that it was hunting season. And we were just like, that sounded really fucking close.
Oh, God.
What the fuck's going on? And like both of us are wearing like blue or like dark blue or fucking, you know, I mean, like we're not wearing hunter orange, you know? It's just like, okay, this is of some concern.
Right.
What do we do with this information in mind? And it was like, well, let's get to the edges of the fucking rock formation, and then we'll double back. And like we cut out to the really fucking steep face, and like, I mean, I honestly don't know how tall this is, but it's hundreds of feet, if not like tens of hundreds of feet, and there's different layers that have been like carved out so you can like kind of descend on the edges to different like kind of platforms.
Sure.
And there's this one that's like, I don't want to say it's like 10 feet down from like the basic level of the mesa that we're on. And we get down there and it's like, okay, this seems like it's going to be kind of a shelter from whatever kind of gunshots or whatever, you know, like until we can ascertain that like that isn't happening anymore, because we heard several. And like, who knows, like up where we could have been hearing stuff echoing up from the valley floor. Like, I honestly don't know, but where we were and how uninformed we were, it sounded
Well, you have to be cautious about that.
And close by, and so we were just trying to like be careful, you know.
Yeah, you really should. Yeah.
So we get down into this declivity that's below the main level of the tableland that we're on, and we're looking around, and he sees something, and he goes and he reaches underneath this rock formation, and he pulls out a ceramic that looks like a purple tower encased in flames.
What?
Yeah. And I'm just like, what the fuck is that? He's like, I don't know. It's fucking crazy though, right? And I'm like, yeah.
And you're like off the edge of this cliff, basically?
Down in this declivity. And so then we start like skirting the edge because we're just like, oh, this is fucking like, it's a sheer drop off, right? This is fucking crazy. And we come across this rock that's a little bit away from the edge, but it's, you know, elevated from the floor that we're on. It looks like it's natural. I don't know that anyone dragged it there, but there's stains on the surface of it that are red. Ooh. And dark brown.
Ooh.
And we're like, well, and then there's a bunch of bones around the base of it. And there's all these different like red and blue lenses that are set into the like pores in the stone. You've seen basalt, you know how it has like holes in it and stuff.
Right, sure.
And there just seems to be all these different like there weren't any gems or anything, but like lenses, you know, and then he's
just like big pores, big, like kind of holes in it.
And we're like, well, this is fucking weird. This looks like an altar, you know, like, and there's bones next to it, like there's blood stains on it.
Ugh.
And he's like, this is fucked up. And I'm like, I know, right? And he's like, do you want to just like take all this shit that we found and like throw it off the side of the cliff?
Whoa, no.
And
put it all back where you found it, dude.
Well, oh my god, rule number 1. I'm sorry.
Guess what? We're both fucking Catholics who are in youth group.
Oh, and you're like, purge the evil.
Yeah.
No.
So we're like, let's cleanse this place. So we gathered everything that we could find, and we were about.
There's a curse on you to this day.
We were about to throw it off the edge, and then I'm not fucking shitting you. A ton of birds just go flying up, like I don't even know how many birds. Just
they saved your life that day.
Well, he still threw the fucking ceramic off the fucking thing.
But okay,
he kept all the bones and lenses and said that he was going to give them to a priest.
No, what? Oh,
you removed them.
Yeah, I didn't touch any of this shit.
All right. You can remain in my house.
Yeah. Trust me, I wasn't going to touch any of this stuff. Are you kidding me? Oh, I've been to Satanist caves on acid. It is not cool.
It might not matter. Maybe the ritual.
Not while the Satanists were there, but like after, you know, like late at night, we decided. Anyway, that's a whole nother story for another time.
So the birds flew up and sort of prevented you from doing this thing.
We were about to throw a bunch of shit off the ledge, and then it's like 20 fucking birds took off from the ledge just below us.
Man. Okay. Spooky as hell.
Yeah.
But the birds probably heard you mucking around up there.
Exactly. I mean, all of it's explainable.
It is. Yeah. Spooky as hell, though.
And he threw the Urborg off the ledge. And
oh, no, dude. Before the birds or after the birds?
After the birds.
Oh, God, really? Okay.
Yeah. The ceramic, like,
but
tower
then
in
after
flames.
the birds, you opted not to throw all this shit off?
I think that's what freaked him out.
He stole a bunch of it.
Is he was like, I'm going to give this to a priest to fucking, exercise, you know? Like,
oh, fuck, right.
So, last interjection is this guy's still alive. To your knowledge.
He recently reached out to me to suggest that one of the things that we discovered when we were on LSD when we were teenagers has recently become scientific fact. But...
Okay.
Other than that, I have not talked to him since we were in high school. And that's really all I feel like I should say about him.
That's fair. Woof. That's a spooky story. That's weird. And then you never found out about the gunshot or anything?
Nothing.
You just climbed back up
we
and
just made it down off of Castle Rock and we're like, that was weird, right?
Yeah, that's fucking weird. Yeah. All right, man.
Actually, I could be fucking this up. I think we left everything there except for Urborg, and he said he was going to have Urborg fucking euthanized or
exercise,
excoriated. Yeah, exercise.
Yeah. Exorcise the demons.
This
from this ceramic
building. Tower is clear.
What kind of tower was it? Like a city building or like?
Yeah. So like picture like an MTG, like a Magic the Gathering kind of like.
Okay.
Like a purple
tower like a
with
New York City
with
tower.
A few different spires.
Okay.
In flames, like consumed by flames.
That's
yeah.
Wild.
Oh, satanic as hell. You know,
Man.
like.
Okay.
But I mean, like, I don't know.
Is this pre 9/11?
I don't have a problem with that now, but like, oh, absolutely. We're talking about like 96 or 95,
Shit.
like 94 or 95.
Shit, son. All right.
Like Satanism wasn't even cool back then, you know? Like
prophecy foretold, man.
Yeah.
You could have known a thing if you knew what you were doing.
Well, shit. And this is the thing is there's been a lot of Satanists.
I'm just saying, like, you could have marked this shit and been like, had I known, like, I could have prevented 9/11. Like, if I had known that this was a prophecy foretold of the first tower on the side of this fucking hill.
You motherfucker.
And then you become a fucking prophet, a fucking, you know, and the next thing you know, you started the cult you've always wanted to start.
Well, you know, you heard it here first. In an alternate universe, Matthew is a cult leader, along with a man named Chris.
I believe it.